I interviewed Andy Clark last night, and I basically wrote down the quote because I don't want like feel like a lot of people jump on kind of these topics without kind of like I sent the video to you guys beforehand, but Anthony Crolla he has some pretty honest words of Adam Cattrall the other day. And I'll read out the quote that he said. He said, "British boxing is in a major crisis. Small hall shows are being murdered, and the amount of UK shows are being cut in half." And he explained this point by saying the top fighters are going on small hall shows to keep active, but obviously that's difficult. They've got instead of having their fights paid for them now, they've got to pay for the opponent to keep active. All those different issues that people who know about small hall boxing know, and others might not know. But also all the great fights and all the big fights, they're all going to Saudi, which are great, but that's five UK headliners. So he's basically saying that the impact of Saudi is kind of having a negative effect on domestic boxing. I mean, I was just saying to you, Dave, beforehand. I think it's a bit more nuanced than agreeing with the whole statement. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know who wants to start on that. Who wants to begin by unpicking kind
Me,
of the few
me,
things that go on,
I
Rob.
want it
Start.
because I'm quite clear in my mind that he's wrong. There is no crisis with British boxing. Um, and some of the things that he's talking about, things going on small hall shows. Well, so what? That's great. Yeah. Because all of us have been to some of the big events, and not all of them are 90,000 sellouts at Wembley. We've all been to events where there's top level fighters fighting in a big arena where they have to curtain a significant part of it off. They're not selling out. Maybe things have got better recently, but certainly at the height of the cost of living crisis, big arenas weren't selling out. So this concern about big headline events at big arenas, we ain't really missed out on anything because a lot of those fights weren't selling out anyway. So if up to a certain level fights are happening on the small hall scene, well, great. It means the sport is thriving. I would say the sport is thriving more than ever because the small hall scene has improved a lot. Some of the guys we cover for, TM14 and Johnny Clark, Easy Asif, their events are TV events, and they've got the quality and production value of a large event, but just up to sort of a domestic level. And I think that's appropriate. So I don't really see it as a problem. Yes, there is a bit of a problem of fights going over to Riyadh, but I mean, how many of them are there? Again, the fights that are going over to Riyadh, some of the big fights wouldn't have happened without their involvement. So it's not like we've really lost them because the money wouldn't have worked for them to happen here anyway. Um, yeah, yeah, it is a bit of a problem. There are some fights which have gone over there which belonged in the UK, in the fighter's hometown, for example. I think it's, for example, something like Anto Kakachi against Joe Cordina. That belonged in Cardiff or Belfast, for example. But yeah, there's not many of those fights going to Riyadh. If we're taking, for example, the next one on the 22nd, that's like all big world title fights, aren't they? And without Riyadh's involvement, most of those probably wouldn't have happened at all.
Mm.
So no, I have to disagree with him totally there. I think the sport's in a great place. There's still a lot of work to be done. I'd love to have words with some of the promoters and broadcasters that they all need to do better. But I actually would like to see more of the coordination down the levels. Yeah. So if you've got a prospect who belongs, who wants to go through the traditional route, outsource them to Johnny Clark, to Izzy Asif, let them headline a small hall show so that their local, friends, family can all turn out for their first big title fight, if it's a Southern area title fight, for example, they can just go to York Hall or Brentwood or Sheffield, whatever, rather than it end up on some big show where not as many people are able to go. So, yeah, that's my opinion. I have to disagree respectfully with, was it Anthony Crolla you said, or Andy
And
Clark? Yeah,
Anthony Crolla, I interviewed Andy to kind of discuss it, but Anthony Crolla
yeah.
said it with Adam Cattrall. Yeah, yeah, that's what he said to Adam Cattrall the other day. Dave, what about you, mate?
So I'm looking at it this sorry, I'm looking at this in two ways. Some of it I agree with Anthony Crolla. I respect his opinion as a fighter, as a coach. I've had the privilege of speaking to him so many times. What a great guy.
Mm,
Yeah, let's agree on that. Um, I agree with him on some respect because I think he's looking at it from a coach's perspective. Looking at that interview, he was talking about, you know, the lads in the gym that he trains, and when he looks at, not semi, but people that aren't full professional fighters that have to go out and get a job, sell tickets. But then the other part of me is thinking, hang on, we have got this other lane now. For me, and I've said it loads of times, there's small hall, yeah. There's a medium hall circuit that's developed post COVID. Now that's from your likes of, Johnny Clark, top tier. We've all know Johnny. We've all seen the production levels that he brings into that. He sold the rights over to DAZN as well, so his fights are on DAZN. You've got 2M14 and Mark Nielsen. Okay, for me they're medium now as well because they're in partnership with Talk Sport. I think Boxing News are broadcasting some of their shows on YouTube as well. For me, small hall now, guys, if I'm being honest, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a market where you haven't got the production, you haven't got stuff being streamed. There's very little digital. Small hall for me now is what small hall used to be, which is zero production. The fighters come out sometimes not even to a ring walk. And again, I'm not disrespecting small hall because not everyone can afford the production and everything like that, and everyone needs somewhere to start off with. That for me would be small hall.
mm,
So, for example, when you look at Lerone Richards came out on a TM14 show. Now, Lerone Richards was a former super middleweight champion,
mm.
managed by S Jam still currently as well. If I'm still, if
Correct,
I'm
yeah.
right, yeah. So he needed that fight. I think Archie Sharp was going to go on that card as well. I don't know if Archie Sharp was on there. Jordan Flynn was on a card a few weeks ago as well. So he's had a taste of, the limelight. So there is a place for this. However, small hall, medium hall circuit is where fighters, in my opinion, go out to get off the ring rust, and then they go over to the big events, which are Matchroom, Riyadh Season, Queensbury. So there is that, and I think Anthony Crolla's right in some degree because some of the fights are going over to Riyadh. I mean, let's be honest. You mentioned some good fights there, Ra, but do you think Moses Atumu versus Dillian White? Do you think that could have been in the UK? Do you think that would have been, could have done big numbers? For the card that was. Some fights, yes, they are going over there. And when you think about it as well, when a fight does go overseas, it's not just the case of, look, we could have sold those tickets, but it's that revenue that, the industry has lost from a UK market, everything that's sold from things as well, like merchandise, parking, food, everything
True.
like that as well. From a small perspective, I'm thinking with a business hat on, it's not
Mm.
just about the fights going over there. So I agree with Mr. Crolla to some degree, but I disagree as well. So I'm in the middle. But let's not neglect that medium haul market. That's where I'm coming from this from. Would you agree, Regan and Ra?
Yeah, like I was saying to you, Dave, like before we started, and Ra, I think my I think I kind of agree with both of your opinions, but I think from what Quad has said, I think the small hall stuff don't really agree with him on that type of thing. I think the impact of Riyadh season, seeing the big fights and like we're seeing like all the stuff with Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, everything from those fights, I think those have put more eyes on boxing, and I think the trickle down effect of everyone wanting to be in boxing has kind of really jumped into small hall quite well. I think small halls. I don't think small hall's ever been. bigger, and like you guys were saying, it's not really small hall anymore. To call top tier small hall, I think it's a lot of semi disrespectful. That last show they done, I was gutted I couldn't be ringside, but I know like they had. I know I think the majority of the title fights were kind of southern area title fights. But my God, some of the fights on that show were unbelievable. I think Frankie's story, Zach Fee, whilst Frankie was winning the majority of the round, Zach made that incredibly competitive as well. I mean, Kakande got a great knockout as well. He's a one to watch. Who was the other? Ozzy Osbourne getting that stunning KO. Um, I mean, it was a great night of boxing. I think that's had a massive trickle down from kind of the highs of boxing. Boxers getting more opportunities now, and we're seeing more great fights. So I think small. I don't think small halls on the decline. Obviously, Anthony Crolla is in a different region to us. He's up north. He's based Manchester way. So I don't know what it is like up there. I'm not at those shows, but definitely down south with the likes. I mean, Lerone Richards and Jordan Flynn getting on that show the other day. They done back-to-back nights, Nielsen Boxing and TM14. I don't think that they'd
Yeah.
have done that. I don't think they'd have done that a couple of years ago. Um, really good, and like you were saying, Ra, I think the fighters who are on Matchroom or on Queensberry going on these shows, I don't. That's not a bad thing either. If they want to get active and if they need to pay their opponents, no, I think if they've got a good management team, especially these fighters who are earning a lot of money, I think the management team probably cover that. 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, there might be a bit of an ignorant thing to say, but if they want to get an active fight, I think sometimes their management would kind of sort stuff like that. That might not be right all cases. Um, but yeah, I think that stuff I don't necessarily agree with. Like I don't know, Ra, I don't know if you were at the top tier show when George Lidon and Jimmy Sains fought on it. That's a perfect example, right? I think Matchroom let them on that show. That's the busiest I've seen the Brentwood Centre. I think Johnny Clark would have been happy if there was just those two fights with the amount of tickets George and Jimmy sold that day. I think it was buzzing beyond belief. And the high, and obviously it was on the zone. Those two Matchroom fighters on it, I think it only helped the guys who were normally fighting. Like Lily Winch had a debut on that show. She's fought on Queensberry since, and she's fought on GBM since. She's had a really good platform from that. Um, so I got to disagree with him on that. Where I do agree with him, I think the headliners from kind of the big boys, the big promoters, I think that has kind of decreased with Riyadh season. I think a lot of the fights, a lot of the fights, a few headliners like I think the example that Andy Clark gave to me yesterday, Joshua Buatsi, Callum Smith, that'd have headlined here. That opened the last crescendo. Obviously we had Nick Ball fighting Riyadh again. I think Moses Atalma, Dylan White
Mm.
would have definitely Moses Atalma, Dylan White would have definitely have headlined here. I think that'd have sold out the O2 in a heartbeat. I'm pretty sure. Obviously Clark Wardley 2. I mean the success that did the first fight that was over there as well. Um, I sound like a bit of a spoilt child. I was in Riyadh for that last crescendo card, so I'm being a bit of a hypocrite. It was a great show, and I loved every minute of it. But like a few of those, like Daniel Dubois, Joseph Parker, in I
Mhm.
think if every British boxing fan would have probably preferred that to be here. It didn't happen anyway, but it was announced for that. Um, so I do think like that's where it's kind of dwindling. I don't think with the shows that are coming up now. I don't know if Dave Allen was on the form he is now a couple of years ago. I'm not won't say like because I definitely would have headlined a few years ago with the run Dave was on then. But would Dave Allen versus Arslan Makhmudov headlined a few years ago in the UK? I don't think it would have done. But Dave's a very popular guy. That's just one example I'm using from the upcoming schedule. I might be a little bit out of order there. Um, but yeah, I don't think. Yeah, that I just don't think a few of the fight nights that are upcoming would have headlined that, and because a lot of the big fights are going over there. That's where I agree with him on. I think a lot of headline shows like I don't want to swing too far the other way, but you look at the amount of fighters who have fought in the UK before kind of Riyadh season. We're not really getting that pull now because they're all waiting for that Saudi payday. Like,
Mm.
one of my second ever boxing show was Luke Campbell, Vasily Lomachenko. I don't
Mm,
know it. I don't know if that fight would be in the UK in the current climate.
Mm.
That's the only thing that I kind of agree. I don't know if I'm talking nonsense here, guys. Is if have I made a fair case there?
I think you have. I think it comes down to where boxing is in the UK. And what I mean by that is that the love for boxing. The love for boxing at the moment, I'd argue it's our second national sport. Now, I was over in New York a few weeks ago and standing in line for something, um, but I overheard some of the security guards talking about Abdullah Mason. Oh, did you see the fight? And the States have got boxing up here. They're still talking about it. Fans are talking as you walk, and it was great to hear that. The UK is on and off, and it depends on what the climate is. Boxing is in such a strong state in the UK at the moment. I say it's our second national sport. The love for boxing is there. I think you're right in some degree. With some of those fights headlined in Riyadh season, it just depends on where, everything else around it, which is the Netflix documentaries, the press. Is it shoved in, the British public's faces? It, was it like that a few years ago when it was Campbell versus, you know,
I
I don't know. Was it?
I
I'm trying.
think
I'm,
I think
I'm looking at recency bias, and I'm trying to like think about. I sometimes forget about stuff that's happened. So the climate and everything like that. So.
no, I think it was I think AJ when he had the world titles,
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
think I don't like so AJ selling out. I mean Cardiff, Wembley, kind of multiple times. Yeah, and all that. I think Dylan White sold out pay-per-view after pay-per-view back to back. Like a lot of people kind of don't really rate Dylan White anymore because of things that have come afterwards about him and kind of his stuff out of the ring with the failed drugs test and stuff. But he was monumental for British boxing. He sold out pay-per-view after pay-per-view. Um, I don't know whether the market, like people are complaining now about Parker Wardley going on pay-per-view. Joseph Parker's probably is more kind of I think that's a fantastic fight. People are complaining of that about pay-per-view, but back then but people without hesitation bought Dylan White's pay-per-views. That's what all I'm thinking of. I think because we're involved in it and we love every fight that gets announced, nearly every fight. Don't wanna jinx anything coming up, but do you know what I mean? Like I think there might have been a I think Anthony Joshua is that driving force. Tyson Fury, like they're kind of going to the end now, and I think we're kind of seeing the teeter off. I don't know. Obviously, that's just a lit. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that's just kind of what I think. Well, I love all these fights that are coming up, but I think being as big as it is now, I don't know. I think we were probably at a bit of a heyday with Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury and those guys.
And then I think as well, when you look at and both your opinions on this, it'll be interesting to see how you see this go. But just looking at top tier, I'm just thinking about them specifically now. They've got a European title fight and some British and Commonwealth eliminators on the 30th of November. So this isn't small haul. I mean, Mikey Lee Broughton versus Yasser Al Gainer is a fantastic fight. It's
English titles, yeah.
Yeah. Now for me, that's not small haul.
No,
That's
no.
not you spoke to Yasser, haven't you, Ra? I spoke to Mikey last week. They both seem like they really want to give it a fantastic go. Mikey's bringing a load of fans with him over to the York Hall on November 30th. His coach Anthony Manning is well up for it as well. And we were having a discussion, and we were talking about the small hall market, and as I was talking, Top Tier sent over some media guys to do their media work, and they had all the flashy cameras out and everything like that, and then you think this ain't small hall. This is not, Rocky 1976 where he's fighting, Rocky Balboa versus Spider Rico in the chapel, is it? That's small hall. No disrespect, but there is a degree of what small hall is, what medium hall is, and I'll say it to the day I die. There is a medium hall market. Is it being neglected? Is this market being neglected by calling it small hall? What are your thoughts on that, guys?
Go on, Ra.
Yeah, there is, and that's why like I said, I'm a believer that the bigger promotional outfits should cooperate with them more, and they need more love from the broadcasters. Spoke to Johnny numerous times. He's on DAZN, but says he doesn't get paid for it. Well, what are you doing, DAZN? He's putting on terrific shows. Arguably, I've always said this, think at that domestic level, area title fights, English title fights, the fights are often better than high level fights. Certainly for entertainment. Yeah, I get it. The quality might not be as good as a world level fight, but imagine a fight two top level boxers, Olympic medalists or whatever, fighting for a world title. Often their fights can be boring. They'll technically cancel each other out. The two boys on the southern area for title fights, as Regan mentioned, they're hell of a fight for you to watch, and he's got several of those fights on his card. So come on, DAZN, put some of your billions in terms of the budget towards them, and yeah, as you said, so yeah, it isn't neglected otherwise if they're not getting what I think they should do in terms of what they're producing.
Do you think Boxer's deal with the BBC is going to be a bit of a game changer? I think it is
Yes.
to
Yeah,
yeah, because
terrestrial
uh,
TV. Yeah.
terrestrial TV. I mean, the from what I got told, Ra, I don't know if you heard this. Correct me if I'm wrong. At the TKV Clark press conference the other day, it will go live on BBC Two. I think 8 o'clock, and there's three fights. There's three fights on the BBC Two billing. The rest of the fights are on the undercard. The undercard are on BBC iPlayer. Obviously the same night as Parker Wardley as a boxing fan. It's not going to. It's not. Show clashes aren't good for anyone. Like us when like for you guys punch out boxing when I was doing it for international boxing news. Like we sometimes like obviously there's two of you guys. For me, I'd have had to pick a show. Do you know what I mean? Those show classes aren't good for anyone. But I think a lot of people are going to be watching that BBC show over the Parker Wardley show. Mainly because Parker Wardley won. It's on DAZN, which is one paywall, and it's on behind pay-per-view, which is another paywall. And I don't think a lot of people are going to pay it. But I will say to DAZN's credit, I'm tired of people saying that Sky wasn't behind a paywall. Sky Sports is incredibly expensive for a lot of people, and it's still a paywall. Obviously, a
Mm.
lot more people have it than DAZN, but it's a fact. But prime time terrestrial TV, BBC Two. I mean, no wonder Channel 5 had so much success with Harlem Eubank. I think this is going to be a massive injection for British boxing.
I agree with you. I think any boxing on terrestrial TV, prime time TV, it's a win. It's a win if you're a boxing fan. It's a win if you want to dip your toe into the sport if you're a casual fan. For me, it's a massive win because it's in my home city of Derby, which is bringing in more money into the city as well. So it's a win-win. Fraser's fan base is 20 minutes up the road from Derby, so he's going to be bringing people into the city as well. It's going to be shown in absolutely every pub in the city. It's on terrestrial TV. Boxer have done really well with this. I think they've hats off to them. The more boxing on terrestrial TV, the better. The better it
Mm.
is for us. Yes, it's going to be from a media perspective. If there's one of you, you're thinking, where do I, where do I plant my flag for that night? But it's going to be a win. It's a win-win.